9. So we'll be building an app that does this compound interest formula, uses it to get how much money will you make on your savings account when you invest. Here are all the pieces. The principal, P, that's how much money you're going to invest. R is the rate, that's your interest rate. It's a decimal, so we know it's a double. N is how many times you're going to get paid. So if you're getting paid monthly, that would be 12. Obviously, if you're getting paid annually, it'll be 1 and so on. A T is the time in years. This is the formula that we're going to use. Now, I've already written an app. So here's the story. You're going to take the app and make some changes to it. Before I go ahead and give you the changes, I'll go ahead and show you how the app looks, how it works, and then I'll explain all the tasks for you to do. This formula is going to be key. Okay, so all the code and this formula is going to be online. You're going to download them, you're going to create the app, and you're going to go ahead and walk through all the tasks. At the end of the task, I have an extra credit opportunity. I'll explain that as well. So we'll jump right into the app right now, show you what goes on here, why I want you to go ahead and make some changes. There's some little mistakes in the app and I want you to fix those and so on. So let's jump right in. So first of all, this code is going to be available, so you're going to be able to download it. I'm going to go to the calculator first. We're starting to spread things out and kind of split things apart. So unit 9, you can see I have it here. I already make an interest calculator. I have the GOI, I have a main. Let me go ahead and look at the calculator first. So here's my calculator. So my calculator has two methods. Okay, these are yearly calculations, and you could see on the bottom monthly calculations, which is one of your tasks. More on that later. So let's look at the yearly calculation. First, I have a method here that takes in the principal, takes in the current year, takes in the rate, and it uses the formula that I just showed. Okay, so math.pow, you can see the 1 plus the rate over, why is it over 100 and not n? Well, n is 1, and the rate is going to be typed in as a percentage. So for example, if it's 5%, you're going to type in 5, and we're going to go ahead and divide that so we could get 0.05. Okay, we don't want the user to figure out that point something to type in. They just type in the percentage. If it's 10%, 5%, type in 10 or 5. Now, because you're going to do the monthly calculations, obviously this number is going to turn to 1200, right? So we're going to have this idea done again, but in a monthly form. These two methods work in tandem. What do that mean? That means that this guy calculate balances. See, in S there, more than one. Calculate balance, 1. The idea here is he does it once, he does it many times. How so? He uses a loop. Let that one sink in. He uses a loop. So what does he do in the loop? He calls this one. He calls this one many times, right? So this guy gets called right here for every I being the current year. So for example, when I is 1, year 1, put a 1 in with the right rate and the right principal, calculate the amount using this guy. When I plus plus, I goes to 2. The year is how many years you want to do this for. So if you say, do this for 10 years, this will be 10, and it's going to do it 10 times. Okay, if you put in 3, it's going to do it 3 times. Realize decimal format is here. I know, because some people wanted to do this in the last app. So you see I put the decimal format here. Why? Because I want to format my money so that when I format it, it looks good. Now, a lot of people is trying to do something like this in the last app. See, I'm sending back a string. Some people are successful in doing it. I'm sending back a string, which is I'm calling balances because it's going to be more than one. And look how I'm formatting the string, okay? I'm saying, hey, you give a new line for everyone, put a tab, put an I for the current year and get the dollars, and I'm going to send it back. Well, you obviously should be thinking, where's this going to go back to? Well, it's going to go back to a text area somewhere. Some text area is going to get this and put it on the screen. So realize the text area has nothing to do with the interest calculator. This guy calculates the money for many years. This does it for 1 year. And let me undo that. And this has nothing to do with how it looks on the screen. So if we had another interest calculator we wanted to, and if we want to add more calculations, we could go ahead and do that. So here's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to go and show you the GUI. Okay, so I'm jump over to GUI, and nothing really different here. I have one more component that is new. It's called a spinner. Okay, and I'm going to show you how that looks. The spinner is already set up, so I'm going to scroll down and show you all these. You already know: set up content pane, label, button. These are all old at this point. And you can see my user interface is setting up here, my create user interface method. You can see how the spinner looks. I'm going to talk about the spinner for a second, but let me scroll down and you'll see. So you can tell that all this stuff is old, pretty old. So I'm going to go to the spinner. Look at the spinner for a second. The spinner, I want to show two things about the spinner. First, it's a new component, okay, and we could set it up the same way, but it has a couple more things that you need to set up. It needs to say where you're starting from, what's your minimum, what's your maximum, and how are you incrementing. Okay, so if I go back up to my spinner, I'm going to show you those values that I put in there. Oh, I'm starting at 1. When the app runs, the spinner is going to show a 1. The minimum is a 1, so I'm starting at the minimum. The maximum is a 10, and I'm incrementing by 1. That means as you use the spinner, it's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Can't go any higher because that's the maximum. All right, so I set up my spinner, and the spinner is going to be used to tell me how many years. Okay, so when I do it on 1, it's going to be 1 year. If I do it on 2, it's 2 years, and 3, and so on. Obviously, the maximum is 10 years. So now if you look here, the spinner has a change listener, right? Because I want to listen to when the spinner changes. Now I'm only doing one thing here, clearing the text area where I put all that information, the balances, whenever you change the spinner. Because I want a person to know that you didn't calculate this new setup here. All right. So scrolling down, they set up the text area and the scroll pane. These are all old. The button. This display error message. This is one of your tasks. More on that later. And you can see I scroll down all the way. You can see a bunch of these things are very common. The action for the button, set up the window. And here is my calculate action. This is the last one. This is going to be your extra credit, but I'll explain it in depth in a while. So here is my calculate button action perform. One of the things I want to show here is this piece is all about what the user did. So first the user types in a balance. I get it and I turn it into a doubler. Hold it as the principal. That's how much we're starting out with. They type in a rate, say 5%. And I store it and I hold it as the rate. Let me go ahead and just make these nice and straight so we could kind of pay attention to what's going on here. So if the person types in, I have $10,000 and I want to see how to invest it at 5%, how much money would I have? Well, the principal will be 10,000 and 5% will be the rate. Look at the spinner though. Here's a nice little casting. This is from way back. This is a little casting. It says, get the value that the person has on the spinner, turn it into an integer object, not an int, store it as an integer object, and then take the integer object and turn it into an int. Nice little trick here. There's a nice method here that turns an object integer into an int. It's called int value. Then I created the calculator. Once I get the information from the user, I then tell the calculator, hey, calculate these balances for me with this principal, with this rate, and this year. It sends back the balances as a string, remember, a string. Then I set the tax in the area and I put the balances up. Okay, so who does this? Well, the main. Let's take a look at the main. That's where your tasks are. So I'm going to go ahead and show you your tasks. Here we go, tasks. First, you're going to add a key listener to this app. The code is going to be available, just remember that. So you're going to add it so that the key listener is going to go to both fields, such that when the person types in any field, it clears the text area so the person knows they have to calculate this new thing. You're going to add error detection code. You could remember that I have an error, display error message method, and I want to use that specifically, but you have to figure out things like, hey, we can't calculate the interest on a negative balance. That doesn't make any sense. You can't type in a number, not anything that's not a number, and try to figure out something. So we want to make sure we could do that. The other big one now is to use the GUI such that we could have two modes. So we're going to change it up. Change it up so we have two modes. A yearly mode, which is already done, and you're going to do the monthly mode. Okay, so the formula that I showed you, which will be online, is what you're going to have to use. So let me go ahead and show that in a second here. See the calculator? Monthly calculation. So you're going to have to write methods looking at these, using these as guides, and write monthly calculation methods. And then you're going to change the interface such that it could be in yearly mode or monthly mode. Okay, so you have to figure out how to do that. That's up to you. There are many ways to do it, so be creative. Finally, there's the extra credit. The extra credit is how could you move the calculation method from the GUI to the calculator? Well, let's go ahead and see what I mean. This method. All right, spoiler alert, spoiler alert. You cannot just copy and paste this over here. Doesn't work, doesn't work. So let me go ahead and point out why it doesn't work. The principal field is in this class, not this one. The interest rate text field is in this interest rate GUI, not the calculator. Okay, so we got to be real careful. So the spinner also is in this class, not over here. So the way we want to do this then is we want to really focus on how can I get this entire thing over here, knowing that this class, this guy, where you're going to do the monthly stuff, does not have a spinner, an interest rate text field, or principal text field. If it does not have those, how could he take this information and calculate it over here and send it back, return, to this guy, even though he doesn't have these things? That's the extra credit. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and run the app so you could see how it works, and then I'll show you the arrows and the different things that we're talking about in terms of your task. But just before I do that, let me go ahead and remind you of the task one more time. Add a key listener. Text fields are going to clear the text area when the person types in them. Add code to detect errors. Report them to the user. Pop up an error message saying something went wrong. Change the GUI to have two modes. This is the big one. We want to make sure that they're operating in yearly mode or monthly mode. When it's in monthly mode, it's going to call the monthly method. When it's in yearly mode, it's going to call the yearly method. Use the formula. And finally, you have the extra credit. Now, you should not try the extra credit until you finish all three. Okay, so consider this 3 tasks. And if you're able to do all 3, then you check the extra credit. And if you're not successful with the extra credit, that's fine. But just do the first 3 and leave it at that. So we're going to run this and look at how this app works. So here is the app. Not anything fancy, just pretty straightforward. I'm going to say I have $10,000. And if I want to calculate this, I want to say, okay, let's see, 5%. But here is the years. This is the spinner. See how it looks? A text field with a little guy right here that allows me to go up. See, I'm pressing. Now realize it started at 1. See, started at 1. I can't go any lower because 1 was also the minimum. See, I'm pressing to go down. There's no more. I can't go down. And then we could go up as high as 10. I can't go any higher. Right, remember the spinner, start at 1, increment by 1, and decrement as well. If I'm going back the other way, it's going to go down by 1. So let's say I want to do 10 years. I say calculate. There we go. So the first year, my $10,000 at 5% will go to $10,500. The second year, it's going to go to $11,025. And then the third year, you realize this is a compound interest because you're making interest on interest. Okay, it's not going to add 500 every year because the second time around, it's going to take this balance to calculate the new one. And then it's going to take this balance to calculate the new one, just like the mortgage. Very similar, except you're making money now, not the bank. All right, so what you want to do now is, let's look at the task. You want to change this into a monthly. So instead of year, it'll be months. Let that one sink in. Instead of years, it would be month. If I was in the monthly, it wouldn't say years, it would say month. It's up to you to make the spinner whatever you want the spinner to be. If you want the spinner to stay as years and then you calculate in months, it's up to your design. But if you change it to monthly mode, I want everything changed into months. So yearly account balance, monthly account balance. Okay, so when I click here, I'm gonna see month 1, month 2, month 3, how the balance is changing. Now, the GUI has to change, obviously, so you're gonna work in the GUI. This guy, okay, you're gonna have to come here and change this. And change it nicely so that you don't mess this thing up, make sure it looks decent. You're gonna change this, and then when you finish changing this, you're gonna have to go to your interest calculator and do your monthly calculations, right? Because if you're in monthly mode, you're gonna call the methods down here, but if you're in yearly mode, you'll call these. Okay, that's a nice little separation. We're talking about separating these things and having some control over your code. All right, arrows. Well, let me go ahead and change this. Look at that. Already did this, right? Because I changed this, the change listener says, hey, clear this out because 8 needs a new calculation. But let's go to 5 years. See, new calculation. Well, what about if I decided, let me try 4 years, and I'm not going to put in the interest, I'm trying to calculate, oh, error. Man, that's not good. That's not good. You're going to have to fix that one of your tasks. Okay. What about if I say, you know what? I'm going to put in negative 10,000. Doesn't make any sense. Okay. Getting some errors here, and I'm going to put a 5 and say calculate. Well, this doesn't make any sense. We're not investing our money negatively to make negative amounts. So you're going to have to change that with error handling. Okay. So now that we've seen all this, your job is pretty straightforward. You have to fix these errors. You have to put a key listener on this to clear this out when this change. Like if I did this, see, still here, not good. If I change this out, still here, not good. The text area should change so the person knows it didn't calculate yet. All right, I'll show you the task one more time. Let's go ahead and look at the task. Main method. Add a key listener. So that when you clear out the text fields or do any typing in there, the text area changes to nothing. So the person knows they have to calculate again. Error code. Get some error code in there so the user knows they're doing something wrong. Change to modes. Have 2 modes for me. Yearly mode, that's already done. The errors need to be done as well, but the yearly mode's done. And then the monthly mode, you're going to change to 2 modes back and forth. That's up to you in terms of how you want to execute that. Extra credit though, and we're going to end it right here. How can I get all the calculation stuff in the calculator? Do not attempt this unless you finish all 3 of them. Unit 9, interest calculator. We're not paying the bank, we're making money. This stuff is going to be online. All the code, everything's going to be online. Pay attention to your task and you complete it. This brings us to the end of Unit 9.